University of Sioux Falls fans, supporters, and interested parties, we have a treat for you today. Um, New head women's volleyball coach Dan Mathews is joining us on a Zoom interview. We're going to learn all about Dan, what his focus is going to be moving into this season. But before we get started with the questions, I want to tell you that my name is Dan Gensler. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications at the University of Sioux Falls, and we're happy to have Dan here. He has a long record of accolades and accomplishments in his career. He was an All-American volleyball player at Ohio State University, and then he later played professional volleyball overseas in a number of different locations. He also got some coaching tips or assistance with two Olympic gold medal winning coaches, Hugh McCutcheon and Ron Larson, and our fans all know who those individuals are. For the past 4 years, Dan has coached Cardinal Stritch University and led both the men's and women's teams to a combined 110 wins. So certainly they've kept you busy. Welcome to Sioux Falls, Dan.
Thanks. I couldn't be happier about joining this team. There's a lot about it that makes it really special. So very, very grateful to be part of it.
Jumping in, we're calling this 10 questions with Dan Mathews, and let's go with question one. Talk about how your experiences in the past will help you lead USF volleyball.
Yeah, sure. Like you mentioned, I've had some awesome experiences, and recognition is nice, but that's really not the deal. It just happens when your attention is in the right place, and it's the experiences that matter so much more. And I'm really lucky that my experiences have come from some really amazing people. I've been able to learn from masters of building team culture, specialists in motor skill learning and the science of teaching. Experts in collecting and analyzing statistics in order to make data-driven decisions. I think every coach is motivated to win, but having the skills to create change is really where the rubber meets the road in this profession. Fortunately, I think I've gained some insights into that process, and it's what I hope to bring to USF volleyball.
Tell me, after going through this application process here, how would you describe, in your view, the state of USF volleyball?
Yeah, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we're evaluating the right things and using the right criteria. And we can't ignore that the team is about much more than volleyball. So, the players are students first, and with the team GPA over 3.5, they stand on really impressive academic ground. They're also, people. And I've met with them extensively over Zoom over the last 2 weeks, and what I've discovered is that they're a group of unique and complex individuals with rich and rewarding personal lives, and so as human beings, it's a really inspiring group. But we're also volleyball players, and we're trying to be really good at it. And when you look at the team since transitioning to Division II almost a decade ago, they've made significant, albeit incremental, progress in the NSIC, and that is no small task. So with this in mind, it's clear that this group has a proven commitment to gradual success as students, people, and players. And so, 3 for 3 is, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just excited to bring some new ideas and, contribute to that success.
Let's talk about some of those ideas. As you begin planning for volleyball this spring, moving into the fall season, what are 3 of the 4 first steps that you might want to take on?
Yeah, well, we're in a very unique situation, because of COVID, obviously. So, what we have available to us is basically an entire season of training with very little or no competition. That presents some challenges, but it's also kind of a blessing because we can be completely immersed in process without the distractions that come from needing to gear towards performance outcomes. So this means we can really focus on player development. the first step for me would be to get everyone on the same page in terms of the fundamental skills of the game. Get everyone on the same page, technically speaking, by addressing the three fundamental questions, which is how do we move and how do we perform the skills? What do we look at? And then using those skills, what decisions do we make based on what we see? And that's a really big deal. That takes a long time. That's, most of coaching. The second step would be to make sure that we're embracing the right mindset. And what we've been talking about in our Zoom meetings as a team is adopting a process-oriented growth mindset that recognizes failure as an important part of success. The third step is implementing a team culture of excellence through selflessness and servitude. The fourth step is expanding our presence as a program in order to make a more profound impact in the recruiting landscape. And of course, there's no order to it. These things all happen at the same time. They happen together or they don't happen at all. So it's a pretty tall order, but I'm really excited to get started.
As you go through those Zoom meetings and you talk with each of them individually, what are you kind of, you outlined it a little bit, but what are you learning about the team? What are some of the interesting things that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, well, I think if we're speaking strictly in terms of the team as a group of volleyball players, we have a lot of depth and a lot of size. So there's going to be a lot of competition. It's going to be really fun to sort through that in practice and establish our roles and find our group identity. We also have players from all across the country. Lots of different geographic landscapes are represented on our team, with lots of different backgrounds. So it's exciting. I think our strength will be a sense of diversity that's unified by a shared mission.
Fantastic. So tell me, we mentioned a little bit about how the disruption this fall was created by the COVID-19 pandemic that has affected athletics across the country. Mm-hmm. But how do you deal with some of those challenges intertwined into a loss of a season?
Yeah, so not to make light of a very serious situation, but I think it benefits us to kind of check our language a little bit, because I think we tend to believe the things we tell ourselves. So to the best extent possible, I think we should try to reframe the situation in a positive light. So fortunately, with eligibility relief, we can say that no one lost a season. It was just kind of postponed. As volleyball players, this means we can embrace a mindset where we now have this great opportunity to pursue deep changes in my volleyball habits. As people, it's an opportunity to witness a historic global event. And again, that's not to make light of a very serious situation, but I think it'll serve us to hold those perspectives. So that being said, there are certainly some very real challenges. The first is that with eligibility relief, there's a recruiting logjam. So a question to ask is, how do we create a recruiting strategy that accommodates our returning seniors, but also serves the incoming class of 2021? Fortunately for us, this is less of an issue because we're not a very senior heavy team. But it might become an issue down the road when it comes time for other classes to graduate. So the second real challenge is, the mental health and well-being of our student athletes. So how do we deal with social isolation? How can we remain connected? In the classroom, this is a very motivated group. So how do we maintain that, that motivation? How do we deal with losing this sense of our identity for an entire year? And for lots of these players, volleyball is kind of their outlet. So how do we deal with losing that? And what I've kind of been reinforcing in our team meetings is that the idea of being a team is more important now than ever. because it kind of transcends what we're trying to do in terms of winning and losing. You know, we're now each other's support network, and we're all in this together.
You understand the value of family. You have two young sons, and so I think I'm getting the feeling about that coming through some of your words in terms of team and staying together and helping each other through that. With that being said, do you feel like there's a real good enthusiasm or a lot of enthusiasm as I'm moving to the spring and actually um, maybe getting some competition underway?
Yeah. So in terms of competition, there's no indication yet as to what shape that might take. Of course, our fingers are crossed, but you know, we'll see. I think we have to go into it with the expectation that, you know, the real benefit of the spring is building meaningful connections, withstanding the challenges of the time, and then, you know, trying to accomplish some very fundamental things in volleyball, which is work hard, learn a lot, get way better, and have fun. And with that as the foundation for what we do, you know, I think there's still, you know, the potential to have a great couple months in spring.
Well, we've certainly seen this team like to have fun. They show a lot of enthusiasm out on the floor. They've done very well. You're coming into, maybe I would argue, the elite Division II volleyball conference in the country. Talk about that and how you embrace that.
Yeah, I think we have a very real responsibility as a member of the NSIC. It's expected that we're excellent. But because the conference is so good, I think we're kind of a destination league for a lot of really good recruits. This means we can be selective. It means we can have a high standard. It means we can provide a stellar experience. And since a program is only as good as its people, this ability to obtain outstanding talent gives us a rare opportunity for immediate and impactful growth. So that's our direction, you know, full steam ahead.
You know, you talk about accomplishment. Certainly, this team has done it on the floor, but it has also done it in academics. We have, since the program began back in 2012, 70 student athletes have been academic all-NSIC. For 12 straight years running, they've had 3.3 GPA and recipient of the USMC ABCA award. And this fall, Kristen Lorger was the NSIC Elite 18 award winner, and which is a significant accomplishment for Krista. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned how important classwork is. Talk about your expectation and commitment to academics.
Yeah, it's impressive. Really high bar. But you know, the reality is, I think academics and athletics go hand in hand. In women's volleyball, you can't really have one without the other. And I think that ultimately a coach is a teacher. Our subject is volleyball, and that means that the players are students, not just off the court, but also on the court. And you know, therefore, academic success is a powerful indicator of athletic potential, assuming that the physical prerequisites for athletic performance are met. So in other words, success in one area doesn't come at the expense of success in another area. It is complementary to it. So the expectation is excellence, and it doesn't matter if it's academic or athletic. And our commitment to the student athletes is simple. One, we'll recruit athletes who prioritize academics. We'll create, you know, the appropriate conditions where they can thrive, and if they need help, we'll find it for them.
Outstanding. You know, University of Sioux Falls has a strong culture for service embedded into the university and into the athletic program. How do you feel about service and the importance of that for members of your team?
Yeah. So it's a part of what we do in a very real way, and I'll explain what I mean. I think we can define service as a set of behaviors or actions that benefit others and improve the environment. So when it comes to providing service, I believe in a strength-based leadership paradigm. So this means operating within our domain of expertise. It's the belief that we have the deepest impact when we act within the scope of our influence. For volleyball players, this means being excellent volleyball players. I think that's the best way to be amazing role models for younger athletes, especially female athletes. Being great volleyball players and exemplary people, and being something for others to look up to. As students, this means preparing as diligently as possible for a career that has a meaningful impact in the world and benefits people beyond ourselves. And we have people on our team who want to be doctors and lawyers and teachers and some very lofty goals. And I think ultimately that's how we have our influence. So that's what I'll encourage our team to do is to thrive within our scope of influence. Academic success, athletic success, and service are really one and the same.
And it's a group that sticks strongly to their faith. We're a strong Christian school that believes strongly in that connection as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, Dan, finally, let's close on this. What makes you tick? And tell us a little bit about your family and
Mm-hmm.
what are those things that are most important to you?
Yeah, I think what I've inherited from my family is a belief that fundamentally at its core, life is precious and everything is sacred. And that's certainly been reinforced in my relationship to my own children. And I think that if you approach every interaction and endeavor from that perspective, you're bound to leave the world a little bit better than you found it. And that's what I'm after. And volleyball really is, the context for me to, express that.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you taking the time. We might have been a tad over 10 questions, but who's counting at this point?
Right.
I do want to thank
you. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here and talking and sharing a little bit about yourself with the University of Sioux Falls community and about your focus and plans on the future. Any final thoughts, Dan?
I'm just so optimistic about what this group can achieve short term, but also, the kind of an environment that we can create long term. I think we're really going to be able to serve some high level people.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks all of you for joining us today. This has been 10 Questions with Dan Mathews. Have a great day.